Space vampires. Who would have thought? The Orville.
So episode 6, named Krill, starts off a little bit lighthearted with the crew kind of in the cafeteria.
That was awesome.
Gives me like a Big Bang Theory vibe.
It starts off with Alara because her superhuman strength. Because her physical prowess are intimidating to whoever her partner was. And then it proceeds with, what's his name? The robot.
Alright, so episode 6, Krill. I have a lot to say about this episode. Particularly, it's not as good as the previous episodes that we've had from Orville in a long time. I mean, like, I'm not saying it's bad or anything. I'm just saying that it's just not as good.
Okay. I actually thought it was one of the best episodes so far, but I want to hear what you have to say.
I feel like we glossed over this subject already with the previous episode with the bio vessel, and now we're kind of scratching the surface yet again with religion and faith and how it'll affect how some people or how some civilizations will treat other civilizations, so to speak. So it starts off in the cafeteria, which I thought was a pretty funny moment, a very humorous moment. It reminded me of Big Bang Theory, the way they're all kind of congregated around the dinner table, so to speak. And we got some pretty fun moments.
Yeah, I thought that was a hilarious moment to kick off the episode. Alara obviously, or apparently, just broke up with a boyfriend because her strength, her powers, her powers are intimidating, emasculate her partner, or whatever. Yeah.
And Isaac is like, you know, this stuff that you biological life forms, this stuff that the emotional evolution of you life forms, or the emotional evolution of you biological life forms intrigues me. He would love to attempt sexual relations with Alara, and
I would gladly assist you with any sexual something. I don't know. Yeah, he said it perfectly.
Alara shuts him down, obviously.
Squashes it.
I don't know how that kind of type of coitus would happen amongst the two.
I'm curious how that would have worked out, but nonetheless, she shoots it down right away.
And then Bortus obviously reveals that Mocklins have a very resilient digestive system.
Yeah, that was awesome. They proceed to give him a whole bunch of stuff, a napkin, a piece of glass, and then a cactus. And that was pretty humorous for me.
Yeah, it was it was a good moment, you know.
Humorous. A good humorous moment.
It leads to them. It leads to Gordon playing he's on to his practical jokes again.
Yes.
So
well, before that, I mean, there was what made this episode even better for me is because they go head to head against this big Krill warship or something like that, and it was just really cool to see them like glide through the atmosphere of the planet where they were trying to blind them with the smoke, and then they maneuvered their way up to kind of shoot torpedoes through the opening mouth. It was like the tongue of the spaceship, the open mouth, and then and destroy the.
It was one of those Captain Kirk moments, right? He displayed some clever maneuvering and tactics.
Yeah,
to
and I
dispatch.
thought the show started off great. You know, some really fun, lighthearted comedy, and then went off to some action, and then we proceed to this scene where. I'm just gonna say this for one last time. Kelly just sucks at acting her part. I mean, oh, what will we do if you ever get captured or if we lose you? Oh, and then her facial acting was just so awful. It was like, can we just stop with that already? Could we just proceed with the other episodes, the best parts of the show? And just get rid of her entirely.
You're right about one thing. That's the last time you'll ever say anything about that. I don't agree, because she doesn't have a lot of parts to begin with. And the little parts that she does have, there's not a lot to work with. I mean, Seth MacFarlane isn't exactly your Oscar-nominated actor as well. And so sometimes you have to work with what you got.
But you know what? Seth does a fine job acting alongside Charlize Theron, and any of his parts, I have no problem. I think he is well developed, and he has his own chemistry that he portrays.
But in the previous episode, Kelly's acting was really good. So we know I would admit that. Or Adrienne Pellicki's acting.
But Kelly Hu was in the house.
Yeah.
Admiral Ozawa. Hot.
Hold off on that, because I'm still on this topic.
I don't want to move on. Come on.
She doesn't have a lot of chances to
portray her really bad acting skills.
She doesn't have a lot of chances to begin with to display such acting prowess. She's given a couple of lines to say in this episode. We don't see anything of her later on. You know?
Okay.
That's
good. It's good for me.
There's no chance for her to shine. She's got 2 lines to say to Ed. They go off, and the whole episode takes off from there. And so Kelly Hu,
she's so hot.
Miss Lady Deathstroke,
Deathstrike,
Lady Deathstrike, Miss China White, Miss all over the place video game voices. You know.
Probably the fantasy of every boy that lived in their parents' basement for many, many years.
Yeah.
Including mine.
Mm-hmm.
And yours.
Mm-hmm.
She's beautiful, and I'm glad to see that she made it onto the show. She's been in many, many different shows. I think she was at the 100. Was that the show?
No.
The 500?
No.
Which one was that show?
No.
Which one's that? Was that show where the kids are up in space and they...
The 100?
Yeah, the 100.
Was she?
She's in that show, man. You can fact check that.
Moving on. So Admiral Ozawa is kind of like, trying to achieve peace with the Krill. And so she sends in Ed and Gordon in an undercover mission, so to speak, to get the Ankana, their Bible or their Quran.
I would say their Quran, yeah.
And so this is where the episode kind of takes off, and the humor kind of like...
Well, there's still humor, but I think you're...
No, yeah, the humor started to skyrocket from there. I mean, one of the more humorous parts that kind of just struck me funny in the beginning of that kind of whole arc was the stormtrooper moment. When Ed and Gordon are squeezing through the same door, and they just kind of like squeeze into each other, and it's just one of those moments where you kind of like, it's not funny, so to speak, but you see it happening and you just start
laughing. Old school humor without the need for dialogue. Charlie Chaplin comes to mind. But in that situation, I thought one of the funniest moments of the episode was when Gordon explains the happiness of going to prayer in a way too long and extended dialogue.
That was funny for me too. I mean, you really don't get to see your coworkers in their off-day clothes.
It was just like it
resonated with me.
It was uncomfortable. It made me uncomfortable when he was going through that, and I'm
we
sure
were just kind of like
that was the
approach. We kind of shared the same feelings as Ed did. I think we were both at that point kind of like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, it's just stop. Just stop.
And that leads me to my one kind of gripe about this episode is when do you draw the line? When does the Krill, if you're 110% Krill, when do you notice that their demeanor and their behavior isn't exactly Krill?
Yeah, I think you're being a little nitpicky here, because
I'm gonna nitpick just that one part, because this is an undercover mission, going on board a destroyer for the Krill, and speaking the way they're speaking, there's got to be, at some point you're gonna have to look at them and be like, you're not Krill.
Yeah, but that's what made that humor, the atmospheric humor, work for me, because it's, as you've been saying this whole time, sit back, relax, and enjoy this show. And now I find it very funny that you're sitting back and nitpicking this whole entire sequence.
That's just one gripe.
Whatever. I just sat back and enjoyed it. Although...
And so we get to the rest of the episode where they're kind of met with another civilization that is deeply rooted in their religion, and I feel like we saw this before in the biovessel episode, which is why I think, you know, this episode didn't do as much for me as it did, as other episodes did, because we've been here before, and now they're kind of broaching the same topic.
Well, I mean, I would say that the biovessel episode was more like Middle America cult, church kind of episode. But for this one, I think it was a little bit more on the extreme jihad, ISIS, Al-Qaeda kind of approach, where even when they were in their prayer, their language sounded very Arabic. Yeah. And even the book, it reminded me of the Quran. This one for me was a little bit more serious, a little bit more on the extreme side. Multiple faiths or multiple beliefs clashing.
Right, fundamentalism.
And there's history there. But I enjoyed this episode. I mean, the whole time they were trying to be undercover, they did a really bad job at.
Yeah.
Like how, if you're a Krill, as you were saying, like how can you not know when somebody comes into your spaceship and say, "Hey, what's up, man?"
Yeah.
I'm Devin. He's Chris. Space vampires are, I guess, the jihadists of space.
Sunlight is lethal to them because they live in the dark.
Right.
There's a lot of debate there with how they ended the episode. Definitely, they ended the episode on a somber note where there was there's this ethical debate as to who gets to kill and do you kill at all.
Right.
So the Krill was planning to kill hundreds of thousands of people. Ed had to debate with himself, does he want to kill the Krill in an attempt to save those hundreds of thousands of people, but there's children.
Yeah.
And then so at the end of the episode, Tulea's like, those children are going to go on to be your enemies next. And that's the vicious cycle of fundamentalism. Basically, you kind of kill for your beliefs.
See, this episode really kind of ended the way a Star Trek episode ends, and that's why I think this was the best episode so far. The
episode was good. It's not bad. It had some great humor. I don't think I'm ever going to be disappointed with the humor in this episode, and Orville continues to do what it's going to do. Yeah, I think it's going to be fairly topical, lighthearted drama, and that's what I've gotten used to. But I think that's what the Orville is. They're going to hit on some topical areas and keep it lighthearted drama, and then for the most part, it's I think everyone that's been commenting is right. It's more Star Trek than Star Trek Discovery. And so that's it for this review of episode 6. Krill. Yeah, but I do want to give a shout out to one of our fans that had a question for us. Oh. Yeah, let me pull up my phone if I can find it. I believe it's, how do you say this? Arwar Korkor. Ruwer Korkor? Ruwer Korkor. Ruwer Korkor? Okay, so it says, I'm loving the channel, guys. Can I ask you to do a Q&A about what made you make the channel? As I'm noticing the anti-noise dampening foam in the background and the expensive chairs, to me it looks like you guys knew what you were doing before starting the channel. Yeah, in fact, we did, to some extent. Yeah, but to be honest with you, we're kind of just learning as we go. We are. I'm a game designer by trade. I'm a creative director in advertising. But I also do have a YouTube channel called Element 7. We're going to put the link in the description below. And then, so I deal with a lot of production in game development, like voiceovers, trailers, sizzles, and all kinds of facets of production, basically. And, sound dampening and recording equipment and all kinds of stuff just goes hand in hand with what I do. And it's what I started with in my YouTube channel. I started with the webcam, I started with the desktop mic, and then I eventually upgraded to some studio quality stuff. And it just moved on to this. So I already had all this stuff. Yeah, and I've always wanted to do something, a creative outlet. And we're family oriented, and we usually get together in the weekends, and usually on Sundays we watch movies and we binge watch TV shows. We argue about it and we talk about it all day and all night. We definitely argue about it. Yeah, we definitely argue about it. So we decided to record. So this is our show, Watching Sundays. Thank you all so much for all of you that's been watching and commenting in the section. Thank you for your support, and welcome to the Sunday Fams. We'll see you next week.